Hello. In this video we're going to go through a for loop, and we will not do this on easy mode. We will try to calculate the average age of our users from the user infos. And I know when we worked on the users and the user infos, we treated them differently, or rather separately, but users should track the mapping addresses inside the user infos. So with that out of the way, let's see how we can combine this users and the users info with a for loop. So let's move to the old contract. And here I've already prepared some data for our testing. We have two user infos and also basically two users have been pushed. They are the same. And now let's go to I'll calculate average and let's get started. So in order to write a for loop in Yule, we would have a pattern like this. And let's actually copy paste this here. And the first thing that we will need in this in these accolades is basically our uint I equals 0. And for this we would basically use a let I and 0. And then we would have the condition. This is the I that's smaller than the user's length. We'll come back to this in a second. And then we have the I++, and the I++ is basically reassigning I to add I and 1. Let's come back to our condition. So what is our condition? Well, we need first of all to get the user's length, and in order to do that we need first to get the slot of our users like this, and then we need to get the length, and in order to get the length we need to sload the slot. And now essentially here we want to compare I to its length. We want to make sure that I is less than length. This is basically less than in Yule. I made a mistake here, sorry. And now let's also put a variable here. We want to store the sum somewhere. Let's call this sum of ages and initialize this with 0. And let's now move on to the last part. Basically, the last accolades is what we are going to do for the processing. So, what do we need to do here? Well, we need to go through each of these users one by one, get the address. Then, using that address, we want to fetch the struct inside the mapping, the struct here, basically. And then, from that struct, we need to fetch the age, and we want to add it to this sum of ages. And in the end, we will do the calculation. So, first things first, in this for loop, let's get the user address of of whatever user we get here. So let's store it into user address, and we need to load from storage, and from our memory pointer, which we don't yet have, we need to always add this I. And let's get our memory pointer. And in order to get it, well, we need to run a kcheck 256 on our slot. So let's first of all put our slot in the 0x40 memory storage slot. And now let's store our memory pointer like so. Let's run kcheck 256 on the 0x40 and 0x20. And this is the memory pointer of essentially the users, right? The users storage slot. Now here, let's come back here to sload. Let's all the time add to this memory pointer the I, like so. So essentially when this I will be 0, we will be getting the address of the user in the 0th index. Then if it's 1, we will get the address of the first, the one that is in the first index, and so on. Now the next step is to use this address to get the struct from the mapping. And in order to do that, we need to run a kcheck to 56 on this user address and the user info slot. So let's first of all store the user address in the 0x40 memory slot, and in the next slot we will store the user infos dot slot. And now we will kcheck to 56 these into a data location variable, and just like so, we now have, for example, for the first user, we have access to our struct inside this user's info. So next step is actually the last step here in this for loop. We need to fetch the age and add it to the sum of ages. So we can just reassign to sum of ages basically the addition before the fetched value and the current sum of ages. So we would use add, and we can use sum of ages, and the second param is what we fetch here. So we need to load basically in our user info, age is in the second slot, so it's essentially the first pointer in our data location. So this looks like so. We're adding one storage pointer to the data location, and essentially this is it. In the end, this will hold the sum of our ages. And once we're out of the for loop, or we're done with the for loop rather, we need to calculate the average. So let's store this in memory. I'll add 0x40. And we need to divide the sum of ages with the length of our users. And we would use the instruction div, which stands for divide, and we just divide the sum of ages to the length, and this will be our result. And now all we have to do is also return it from 0x40, and the size is 0x20, and that's pretty much it. Let's deploy it and check if the result is correct. So we have 20 and 30 here, so our average age should be 25 when we hit this calculate average, and it is. Let's add myself inside the user infos. Let's say that well, my salary doesn't matter. Let's say I'm 40, so we should have a result of 30, because 20 plus 30 plus 40 will average 30, and is active. We don't actually care about what this is. Let's transact, and now when we calculate the average, we should get 30, and we do. So that is it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments or DM me. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next videos.